We good? Do we have to do any roll call for the record, or does it matter?
That's up to you.
We'll do it if you might as well get on the record who's here and who's not. That works.
All righty. 205. Paduk, Tui, Alicia, Ledoux,
Here.
Wiley,
Here.
Kooks, and Amo.
And Megan's still on, I see, and Stacy.
Yep, Megan's here.
And Stacy. Hi, Stacy. Hi. Well, we can do. I just want to. This meeting may be really short. I'm really looking for your input on this one and sort of a general quick discussion. We drafted a real rough draft of the RFP and tried to get it matured in time for this meeting, but some things got in our way and some good things, I think, that kind of forced us to move in a little different direction. The first thing I can fill you in on is that we decided there was a meeting with the county executive and a number of department heads to talk about some projects that were budget impacting. And Chairwoman Benelli invited me to come to the meeting and to raise the issue of what we're thinking about doing here and what the thought was about in terms of budget impact. And so we did have that meeting, and the county executive did attend. And we had a lengthy discussion, and he was quite positive. In fact, they sort of got up and drew on the board an idea of what we were talking about to make sure he understood it and in rough terms, and said, let's proceed. We need this in the county of Orange. The debate went on at the meeting, and I think it's important here. Sometimes people use the word this is the continuing care community we're talking about. And that's a separate animal all by itself, as you know, Lawrence. This is not really a continuing care community. We're looking for a way to provide a comprehensive service to the residents of Orange County in terms of aging in place and planning their future. Not sure that any or all of the service they need will be hosted on the campus. Some may be hosted in California. I guess it doesn't really make a lot of difference. We're not talking about just people on Medicaid. We're talking about anybody in Orange County that's sort of facing this thing, and what do they need from us? And they may need some services, and that could be there as well, or they may need advice, and that could be there, or guidance, it could be there too. So, and many things we talked about that was there. So I tried to make it clear that we weren't the Glen Arden type model that some people know about. That's not really what we're looking to try to build, nor is the County of Orange trying to be the builder of it. We really see a partnership with other people to do it if it works. To which that was received positively by both the county the chairwoman and the county executive. We tossed around some numbers in the proposal that you received, which is draft. I was going along with some of the thinking that we were given in the past. We might have a 3-phase process. The first phase being one, tell us what you think a conceptual plan would look like based on your understanding of the need. And from there, we would select people who might want to go farther, go along farther with us on this, and go further with us on this one. And at which point they would kind of develop how could you possibly get it done, strategic plan, who should be involved in doing it, and cost, and then those that are interested in participating would probably then be invited to bid if they wanted to at that point, and say, well, what would you want? What do you think it's going to cost the county? What do you think you want? We're really premature. We didn't flesh that out the way we wanted to. And when we met with the county exec, the consideration of, well, maybe you want to get to step 3 anyway, where you're going to go to somebody and ask them to do the bid. Why don't we talk about that? And so that's where the number came up, and we tossed about, well, would it cost us $300,000, $500,000? Nobody really knew exactly what it would cost. And so the county exec recommended that we hold a second meeting with Katie Benelli, myself, Alan Sorensen, the Commissioner of Planning, and Rick Golden, the county attorney, to talk about this issue and what their advice might be to us. And I think it was positive. The one sort of change point was that Rick Golden, who has a lot of time in the private sector and working with government, thought that maybe a good step, intermediate step before we complete the RFP would be to do sort of meetings or focus groups with various kinds of people that might be interested. Their organization, their trade, their skill might be interested in participating. So, for example, you might, without giving any guarantee that you would be offering them any opportunity to get in, this is just a brainstorming session with them if they wanted to participate. That, for example, you might get 2 or 3 people who have done some type of housing and ask them, is what we're talking about real? Is this something you think the housing industry would be interested in participating in with us? And if the answer was no, then we know that. We might go to a healthcare provider, in the county or a medical group and say, if we did services for seniors, is this something you think healthcare organization, like Crystal Run, for example, or somebody else, Caramount, would you be interested? Or do you think your industry would be interested? And Mr. Goldman's point really was, most of these groups are only going to be interested if they see some kind of profit in it and some benefit to them. And if they don't see the benefit, they're not going to bid. So if you go down the path of trying to put this comprehensive idea together and nobody bids, what do you do now? So let's kind of feel out whether or not they are. So we have county chairwoman and I began talking, the legislator and I have been talking about who are some of the people that we might want to bring in to begin talking to us and make it more as a very informal. It could be a lunch. Some of us could do it. It's fine with me. We're just trying to divide the labor of them. And somebody, just kind of talk with people. We talked about talking to groups of housing people or Maureen Hallahan from about development. Are there companies that are out there that would want to talk to us about coming in and working with us? And if so, how would they want it to work to make it intriguing to them, which then would affect our RFP? So that brings us up to this point and say, well, we had what we sent to you, but sort of things changed. And I think for the good, because I think we got support from the county exec and the county chairwoman, and I think the county attorney and planning commissioner. Megan may have had a conversation with Alan about that and verify whether or not you agree with me, but if not, that's okay too. But that's where we're at. So I kind of want to get your kind of feelings about what I just told you and what was recommended to us. And am I missing something, or there's some questions I should have asked those people in the meetings that I didn't ask? So maybe you could jump in and give us some insight. And then we can think about, well, how can we put a list together of the right people? And they don't have to be the bidders. They may be small people who know the housing industry or know the medical care, senior care industry, or people who know, nursing homes and long-term care. It would be good to talk to us. And would be part of this process. We made it clear, by the way, for Lawrence in the record, we made it clear to Mr. Golden in the county in those meetings that one of the goals of this whole project was to make sure we provide the survivability of Valley View. This is one of the things we wanted it to happen. If we were bringing a campus place where people were coming and learning, then even if they came in at 55 and at some point they needed skilled or CHA or rehab, they'd be thinking of us first because we're right there. And that should not be missed in anything we do. That's really what we're thinking about, as well as providing they wouldn't have to go to Valley View. So we're not really constraining them, but at the same time, it's there and that may help. So that's where we are. Does anybody have any thoughts on what I just mentioned and kind of see where we're going with this one?
Makes sense to me. I mean, I think it's good that you had the conversation with the county exec's office and the county attorney and whoever else was involved in that meeting, because it would have been, if we were going down the wrong road and spent some months and times just concentrating on the RFP and then putting something out and getting nothing back, would have been a waste of time. So I think this is probably going to work out for the best.
Yeah, I think that was really Katie Benelli and I's thought. And I think the other point was oftentimes, because you don't, I mean, as a county, we have to be in a nice fiscal position, financial position, where we have some ability to do some things that we may never have again. And so we want to think about that a little bit.
Right.
But the last thing we want to do is waste all your good time by having these meetings monthly and all of a sudden get 3-4 months down the line later and somebody says, oh, no, we don't want to do that. Yeah, come on, let's fish or cut bait, as I said at the meeting to the county exec's office. Let's make a decision. It won't hurt my feelings if you're saying you don't want to do this, but let's be sure you want to do it. Because there's no use having your department heads and commissioners put energy into this and staff members put energy into this only to find out it's going to go nowhere. We've just wasted time. So that was one of my goals too. Let's be sure we're on board with this. So you're right. I just adding to what you said. Anybody else have any thoughts?
So how do you achieve step one if it's not going to be, if step one of it isn't an RFP, what is step one exactly?
Well, I think from what we gave you, I think we combine all three and just figure, once we hear what we picked up from the people who may want to be interested in the different segments, I think we have one. We go out and say, here's what we're trying to do. Who would like to bid on that? And how would you like to have it done? We could flesh that out. We know that it's entirely possible somebody may come in and want to buy all the land and do everything we want because they see it as a brokered way to do this and make it financially. We'd have to address that when it came up. I think one of the things that we made clear, I know to the county attorney, and it was that, we had a general feeling, a specific feeling that we wanted to help serve the Orange County residents in their planning for the future. And as much as it's important to know that the participants may have to will want to make financial benefit from partnering with us, that's fine. As long as we keep our eye on true north, if you will, keep your eye on the needle. This is where we want it to go. So we don't get something offered to us that doesn't meet what we're trying to do here. And that's why I think it's important to have a good conversation about what do we want to do. It's not a CCRC. It's not just another senior housing unit. It's not just that. It's more comprehensive. So, the RFP may be one, but it may be asking to give us 2 or 3 things in the RFP. I haven't thought about that enough. We want a conceptual plan. We talked about a conceptual plan so all the stakeholders could better understand it. So anyway, Stacy, did you want to jump in?
I think, the idea to talk to, sort of the different interest groups is a good one because that may help us gauge. So, I mean, you have a rather large land area there, and depending on the interests, that will help guide us in structuring an RFP. As you were saying, maybe there's a developer that wants to come in and do multiple types of uses that we're interested in. Or if that's not the case, if there's many people kind of interested in doing individual uses, that might be a discussion about multiple awards or maybe some subdivision of the property or who knows. So I think that would be beneficial to do prior to the RFP.
I think that was Golden's advice. I thought it was good. I think it's a little bit, it'll slow us down, but I think it'll move us faster because if we can get a feel for it, we're going to be able to then put the exact things that we want along with what we think will be attractive to people in an RFP and get good response from it.
Right.
And I think that's good. And I think the timing's so good is, we're still okay working. I know Megan and I are going to be working on it a little bit later. Megan, do you have anything in that? Push your camera up. All we see the top of your head.
All right. There we go. So this is actually the first time hearing about this meeting with Alan. I have unfortunately been out for the last couple of weeks. But I think talking to the interested parties would be a good first step. So,
if anybody here could just, I had it down, well, I want more discussion if you haven't, but I think that if anybody has any ideas, we know what the list looks like. So I mean, if you have some ideas of people who would have a business sense of housing or of various kinds, send an email to me or to Megan, and we'll kind of keep a list together so we know who to invite. We probably, and this is something we'll have to talk to, I mean, Stacy may come back with an opinion on it, or I have to go to Rick on it, is that, I'm cautious about having them come in a public meeting with us to talk, because then it may look like we're pushing them in one direction. It may look like, I don't know what it might. It's almost like I think it might be a way that we would individually, some of us would reach out to those people, given the assignment to this group. Can you reach out to them and see what they tell you? And we'd have to work that out. There may be some that the county chairwoman would want to participate in and sit and talk to the people, or I may want to. Some of you may think I'd like to talk to the people in this area too, and we can say how we can parse this out, because I don't think it'd be positive to make it part of the public meeting while we do this, because we're looking for input. We're just looking for suggestions so we can put together a draft for the next meeting.
Well, hang on a second. That's looking for input on what we have a general idea of what we want to do, but still being open to pushing it in a different direction. That's what we do all the time with our preliminary hearings on new county plans. We're doing it right now for the open space plan. We're accepting all kinds of feedback, and it's actually taken us in different directions sometimes. And I think that's not a bad way to go about it. We certainly don't want to be accused of doing things in the shadows or anything like that. We can put together in the design world, they're called charrettes. It's just getting together interested parties and making them open to the public, but saying, hey, we're not done with this. Here's what we're thinking. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. And so we have to talk about how we're going to do that. I mean, I was thinking that we would do it not in the shadow to yours, but to do it offline from this committee meeting, and then almost like executive session, and come back in and say, I met with these people. I got this information. Here's what they wanted. Here's what they want me to put on the table. That's what I was thinking we would do it. And you're saying something different, Megan. Have I got you right on that?
Yeah, I'm saying that we would hold sessions in what we've done generally for the plan for when we're proposing new county plans is we hold 3 public meetings, one usually in Newburgh, one in Goshen, one in Port Jervis area-ish, so that people can get places. And then what we do is we have a short presentation about whatever our topic is, and then we open it up to the floor.
We could do that virtually, right?
Sure.
So let's talk about it. I mean, I think I want legal advice on whether that's, given we're going to RFP and what we're doing, whether this is the same as, and I'm familiar with it, of what you're talking about, Megan. I want to make sure we're legally okay doing something like this, but fine, let's talk about it. One thing you raised I thought was interesting that I think Alan Sorensen raised that I think we have to think about is what the particular piece of property we're talking about building this campus on is a good distance away from a lot of parts of our county with not easy access to that.
Yes, that's a huge problem.
And that may be something that will turn lots of people away and not even want to bid. And that would be one question we would ask, whether it's a healthcare provider. I mean, why would I put all that money when nobody can come to it? I might want to build a Crystal Run may want to come and have an office there to see patients or see geriatric, seeing patients, but they can't envision there'd be enough traffic for that, make it worth their investment. And that we have to think about that. I think that's going to be a big one. But maybe it is. Maybe by the time we build this, the county will have amoebed enough, grown and spread enough that things are a lot closer. Who knows? Things change over time.
That's true. But transportation industry then is one that needs to be included to
Yep.
get a seat at the table.
Good, good. So I think maybe if we start by, Megan, my email or Megan's email, the group, if we can think about names of people we'd like to put under the headings. Like you just mentioned, if I were to create headings, I think, well, you just mentioned transportation. We need to bring in a couple of people or talk to a couple of people who have a sense of transportation, whether it's private bus companies or whatever. So we need some names under that. We certainly need some names under housing, because I don't know what kind of housing they may want on here, but what kind would people find interested? I mean, I think senior housing might work as a proprietary thing. I'm not sure that assisted living would in Orange County. I don't know. We'd have to talk, but we need to put some people who talk about, housing. And it would seem to me we need to get groups of people who provide certain types of care necessary for people who are aging. So whether it begin instead of social care, maybe medical care, including physical therapy.
Mhm.
There may be somebody that already works, does stuff with Valley View that would say, "Oh, that's a great opportunity. I'd like to come and be part of that." I think we would be interested if the terms and conditions were correct. Anybody else think about other groups? I mean, I mentioned recreational senior movement. Because I had heard from the Y, but as we were told in one of the meetings, we shouldn't restrict it just to the Y. You never know who may be interested in putting something up. So we might ask other people other than people doing recreation. Any other thoughts? I'm thinking.
Michael, can you hear
Yeah,
me?
go ahead. Sure, go.
It's Peter.
Okay, go ahead.
2 points. I was going to say, we have some reputable, very reputable developers of senior housing in the county.
Sure.
I think of, I don't want to put any names out there and put words in people's mouth, but if we could get maybe some type of senior housing where, that would make it more attractive. And also, I have a question that I see the buses around TO, Transit of Orange, and I'm just wondering, I'm not sure the bus schedules or whatever, but if there's any way to get Valley View as a stop on it, and from different points, maybe you go from point A to B to get to C over at Valley View. It might be a little bit, around, but we have a big county, and so if we could get some senior housing, that could help also get the transportation in line too. I think that may help attract some of the other, and depending on the size of the senior housing, it's almost they could be there and grow into the services that Valley View offers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a good point. I know Megan probably has some insight into transportation. I don't know what we can or can't do with the senior bus program or the senior, whether we can connect them all. And
Senior bus, not necessarily just senior bus, but any kind of the public transportation where so that people could come and visit people there. They could come and they could get around if they live there. It's not just like a dial-a-bus or something like that to come. It would be like a regular stop, I think they have it at the jail where there's transportation there. I think that came up in a meeting regarding the medical examiner's building, and I think it was determined there is public transportation there.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So we got a heading. We'll put out a list of headings, everybody, and then we can kind of fill in. Oh, I know this person. Again, then we can see who would be willing to talk to us and how we want to do it. As we're talking here, I don't know whether there's any reason, but I'll throw it out and we'll see if it sticks anywhere. Is sort of the IT, what we're doing now, Zoom. we shouldn't just be putting ourselves into the category that says you can only plan for your senior living, aging in place if you go to this campus. It's entirely possible. There could be huge amounts of high-end Zoom calls, podcast things that people could watch from their home, interact, talk about, that whoever's there may very well do it. Well, I'd like to have some physical therapists talk to me today about what are some things I could do to increase my balance. Why couldn't that be done on Zoom as sort of a basic thing? Maybe I'm wrong there, but things like that. Maybe we'd want to talk to somebody, but can we turn this into a real virtual campus as well? In some way, you don't have to drive, and that sort of counters the driving thing. It's like you can if you want to, but you don't have to. So I don't know what kind of people we'd ask to do that, but that might be interesting and to see if that's maybe part of the RFP. And the other thing I think I mentioned before, I know that Orange County Community College had told me, Dr. Young had said, boy, it'd be really nice if there was a forum where they could hold adult education classes for seniors, whether it's college credit classes or not. Well, that's just one. What about Mount St. Mary's? What about you get 2 or 3 people as colleges representatives? Is this something you would like to do? That may be something to have that to come on board, and if we would have some kind of a building or plan or something, we would use it. So college, maybe educational entities might want to participate. I don't know what other ones I know. I know Anne Marie Maglione mentioned about a cafe. So is food service something that, is there somebody that we'd want to talk to that would say, yeah, I'd love to come and set up a cafe for you? Yeah, I think we could. If you got enough people, we could provide lunches for seniors. Or maybe not, but just find out. And if they come, then they'll put it in the RFP. Let it be free.
Yeah, I think like a lot of things you're talking about, Mike, I'll just call them just off the top of my head as ancillary services. I don't think a lot of that stuff can be determined until you actually figure out what's going to be on the campus.
Okay.
What is the campus going to consist of, and then you could talk about. And then based on that, you I think you're going to figure out what are the transportation needs, if any. Can we provide a college course based on X number of people living on this setting? Do we need a food court or a convenience store or whatever? So I think the answer to those questions will come after we determine what exactly is going to be here. That's how I feel.
So I just use your ancillary services thing, and I hit like transportation, obviously the virtual programming, education, and food service. How would you? I guess the other essential or whatever we call them, is that what I assume that you would think that housing is essential?
Housing, definitely. Whether it's another healthcare service line that Valley View doesn't provide. That could be a potential possibility.
Okay. I put social care because I didn't know what to call it, but you might have psychological, social workers. That you're putting all those together with medical, physical.
Yep.
And what do you think about like the recreation? I use recreation or movement. Is that ancillary? Do you think that is, or is that?
Well, again, it depends. I mean, if there is a need. Again, I don't know off the top of my head, but if there is a need for assisted living and a assisted living facility was to be built on the campus, you would think they would, as part of their program, and they would have some kind of a recreation department. But that might not include, if there was the assisted living piece and a housing piece. So, what could we do for the housing people in the housing piece if they're 2 separate entities? So, you'd have to consider all that.
I guess probably there's one thing I don't know how to get to, but there's a lot of services that Orange County provides, in all its departments. I wonder if any of those would have a need to have a presence on the campus. Somebody's talked about, would the health department want to be there?
Meals on Wheels.
What's that?
Meals on Wheels, yeah, things like that.
Congregate.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess that's the other thing that we sort of have maybe two things going on. One is just sort of what are all the, services and different needs people are interested in general. And then, or is the question that we're really looking at more is like, who's interested on doing something with these parcels here? And to that, I think just picking up on Megan's thing about the charrettes, and also I wasn't part of the conversation with the county attorney, but so I don't know what exactly he had in mind, but we could also do something maybe more along the lines of a request for information and RFI, or just some kind of like public notice about listening sessions that we could do online, whether it's the public or specific groups, but make sure, people that we're interested in talking to would also definitely get the invitation. But then it would open that up a little broader to the public as well. And you could do even like written comments in addition to any kind of virtual thing that we might do, if that's of interest. And
Yeah,
I
I guess-
think Anne Marie will probably have a lot of good ideas for folks that we should have involved. Which Michael mentioned that already, I think.
Yeah, but that and then what Megan mentioned, I think, I've seen it happen in my days on planning boards and how it worked, but I never thought about it here in terms of it, but I think it might be good. I don't know where it goes, whether you talk to the people who are going to do things as we talked about before under some of these categories. And then when you get something that's really more concrete, if that's a way to say it, and then you could go to your public sessions. And well, here's the things that we think we want to be looking at. Now we like the public's input. And they may say, well, I'm interested, but other things, and we might have missed something, someone tell us. I don't know what comes first. Whether you go to the professionals are going to be likely to come to you. And then once you have a general idea, you go to the public and say, give us feedback before we really go out with anything official. Anybody have any thought on the order of those?
Well, I think you kind of said it early on. It kind of depends on who wants to invest their money and wants to actually do something that's going to be worth their while here. Because if you don't have that, then we don't have a campus.
That's right.
That's how I see it.
I think
So,
that was Rick Golden's point.
right, if we don't have a campus, then we don't have services to provide, and we don't need all these other things. So I think, it goes back to that point.
That's what I thought. I was thinking, I won't quote Rick, but I can tell you that we were talking about it as a group. Who said it is that in public or government services, oftentimes a municipality will say, "Oh, I want to have the high tech people come in," because you're thinking, well, that's the kind of people you'd want. But then when you put an RFP out, nobody wants to go to Cutterbackville or something. I just whatever it is.
Right.
I always thought that was a great name, so that's why I mentioned. I'm not picking on the people from Cutterbackville, but I always thought it was a great name. But it's like maybe nobody go there. So why would you get all excited about it and go through the process when you found out that's not the right location or not the right thing to do? So that was Rick's point. He said he's seen that happen so many times. He put an RFP in, and of course we all chimed in and said, "Don't remember Camp LaGuardia?" We had plenty of ideas with Camp LaGuardia, and it looks like the best thing we're going to get is a park at this point. Who knows?
He brought up it's an excellent point. It really kind of hits home.
Yeah, and so we will get it. So that's the kind of thinking. So we'll put this in. We don't have to take a lot of your time. I just wanted to get this to you and let you know what the thinking was. So I know you got other things that are important to do, but I thought, well, let's put this list together under your suggestion, ancillary and essential or something like that. We'll kind of subdivide them, and then we'll kind of figure out. We'll get it out to all of you real like next week, So you can, if you have some ideas, what try, we'll send it to you. If you think, oh yeah, I asked Maureen Hallahan to give you some suggestions on this one, that would be a good person to ask, or ask this person, they'd be a good person, or, you know, and we have other names have come up that people have mentioned would be really good to talk to. And, you know, and then so let's try to build around each of these topics, essential ones, at least at this point, people that we could actually engage in some way. And then see where that takes us. And we'll trust Rick and Stacy to make sure we don't get legal trouble doing something here, you know. Let's make sure we do it the right way, you know, and get there. Does anybody else have any other comments or thoughts on it? I mean, before we call it a day, I mean, we don't have to have a long meeting because we can make it short. Anybody have any thoughts? I know for Paul's perspective, the whole zoning and land use, that whole thing came up, but we really couldn't get to it yet, you know, parcels of land and things and subdivisions and stuff, how it's going to work until we knew what exactly who's interested in it. So didn't mean to leave you out, Paul, but we just didn't, that never came up, right? You know, we were trying to think, where do we get there? When do we get there? Okay. Peter Toohey, do you have any other comment before I close the meeting? Are you on?
No, thanks, Michael.
All right, good. Okay, anybody else? Last time, going once, going twice, going 3 times, sold. Thank you. We'll adjourn this meeting and you'll hear from us next week and we'll shoot for have something more detailed to talk about at the August meeting. Thanks for your
Yeah.
time. I appreciate you being available. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.